This thing running.
Yeah, that's still cutting in and out.
All right. Welcome to a special edition of Metalheads Unites. Early in the morning for us here, but our guest today is it's evening for him, so it works out perfect for everybody, I guess. Yeah, so we're going to be talking with Elvin here in just a second from Eradicated.
This our this is this our second Elvin or third?
Second
Elvin. Okay, I knew we
Elvin
Elvin
Elvin Rodriguez from
from
Spill.
Spillage. Yeah, I couldn't remember if we other than Elvin from Spillage. I thought I was thinking about this last night and I couldn't remember because I knew Elvin was coming on this morning, and I remember our interview with Spillage. I was like, I could have swore there was another Elvin in there somewhere, but I was mistaken. But it's still a small world as far as I'm concerned that we've got our second Elvin in such a like relatively short time span. So,
well, there are Elvin impersonators too. So. I couldn't resist. Sorry.
That's great. That's good stuff.
We're gonna bring Elvin in and get to chatting with him a little bit and talk about the Eradicated's new album, Descendants, and all the other good things going on with the band. So, without further ado,
You can show off his new haircut.
yeah, welcome, Elvin.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
So we talked to you a little bit. You guys are a young band, which we like to hear because, like I said before the show started, we kind of talk a lot about how the direction of metal, who's going to be there to take the torch and that kind of thing. And of course, with you guys being thrash, you kind of fit right in with that. With the moniker that we talk about, because the big questions are usually around the big four. So,
right.
So those guys are getting late in their age. They're in their 60s, most of them now. So it's kind of like how much longer can they go, and who's going to be up to take their spots, that kind of thing. Which I don't consider taking a spot. I consider just doing your thing and getting to that notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we want to, like, I don't know, as far as torch passing goes, I guess you could say that we're ready to take the torch, if you will. But it's good whatever you can do, old, young, rockin'. But yeah, I mean, it's great with new upcoming bands, and we love the bringing thrash into new spaces.
And I think like with that thought, it's more of all bands, I think, just basically want to make a living doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
and a lot of bands don't get to do that, but I think that's the main goal for every band. If you're not like in that go, I guess if you're not in that go, you're pretty much doing it for a hobby. But I think most bands would love to be able to say, hey, this is what I do for a living. This is it. All I do is play music. So.
Instead of it being my Friday night, Saturday, Sunday.
My weekend gig.
Yeah, that's a good goal. It's, the goal of many bands. Yeah, for sure.
Tell us a little bit of how about the band came about.
So I've known these guys for so long. So I'm 23, but I've played with Ragnar and Adam, the brothers, guitarist and bassist, since I was 12. So we met because they started at my school. And then Kalle, the drummer, he joined the band in 2015, and we've been the same constellation ever since. So we've been hanging out, since we were kids, since before, I was a teenager. And we were always very like serious about the music, and it was a big part of our lives. So we kept evolving, playing shows, rehearsing, started recording stuff in 2016, and now we're here.
So where did the Jason alluded to the fact that you guys are all young, and what I seem to find, and I, like I say, I'm not trying to speak for Jason, but what I seem to find is, since we've been doing this, like a lot of the younger bands on the younger side, in the early 20s, like you guys are, thrash isn't typically the sound that newer bands are migrating towards. There's a lot of metalcore and stuff like that, and especially over there in your guys' neck of the woods, there's a lot more black and death metal. So, because we've talked to so many bands from Sweden. I personally, I love it. But so there's other genres of metal that a lot of the newer bands seem to kind of be like, moving towards. So what was it? Because like you said, you guys have been together, hell, basically going on 10 years now. That's how long you guys have known each other, and so where did the thrash, what was the attraction to thrash for you guys?
So, I mean, so we were young, and we were rockers to different degrees, and we were playing like all sorts of different styles and experimenting, and our music taste was evolving, and we were also kind of like punkers in some aspects, and kind of as we grew more, like as we grew as musicians, and wanted to play, we liked kind of evolved in the sense of playing like more harder stuff and faster stuff, and listening to harder metal, and thrash is kind of it's metal, but it's kind of also punk. It's that it's that like rebellious vibe, and it's the like just like the fighting spirit of metal, and that's kind of just what stuck with us. I don't know exactly why, but that's kind of just where we stayed basically, and now we're a full-on thrash band. But we had all sorts of influences growing up.
So what were some of those influences?
So when I met Ragnar, he was like a full-on punker. Like he started school. He came to school with a with a pink cap with like all sorts of stuff like written on it, and like and like big Sex Pistols patch on his vest, and like so that was like where he was at that time. And I'm more like of a traditional rock guy. Like I started listening to a lot to like AC/DC when I was 10, and like that sort of stuff. 70s rock, Led Zeppelin, yeah. And we're also all over the place with like other genres as well, and family influences, and yeah.
Well, I mean, we're kind of like that too. Like me and Chris are mainly thrash guys. We both like thrash, but then he kind of like drifts out toward more of the. Just went blank. More of the.
I'm more of a power metal guy. Some of the symphonic stuff from over there in Europe, a little bit of and then some. I'll kind of sometimes gravitate towards a little bit more of the melodic death metal stuff like that. But thrash guy at heart, Testament, Exodus, obviously the big four, Overkill, stuff like that. Yeah. But that's kind of where our metal fandom kind of starts, and then we branch out a little bit from there. But that's basically kind of where our foundation is.
And then I kind of branched from the thrash over into like metalcore and new metal, and that kind of thing.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So we kind of like hit them. I guess like that's the common ground we have, and then we're able to. I think that's what makes the show work too, is because we know we're kind of sticklers on different types of metal once it
Mhm.
breaks off from the thrash. So a lot of things like I'll hear new albums or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, Chris would probably like that. I'm not really in, I feel like I'm not into it like 100%. I'm not. I wouldn't be able to give it a fair shake. You know what I mean? Like a fair list.
Right.
So if I'm listening to something, I'm just like, you know, like a lot of times I'll listen to stuff, and even if I do the album review, because we pick album reviews blind a lot, so
Mhm.
it's kind of like we don't know what it's going to sound like. So once we pick it, we're just like, well, and we usually try to like go with like a name or something that kind of sticks out. We're like, man, that sounds like it'd be pretty cool. So we'll check it out or whatever, and then sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
and it's not that anything's bad about the album. It's just that we're not into that type of metal, so we're not able to.
Yeah.
And we usually say that too. We usually say, hey, this isn't our thing, but hey, if you're into this and this, then give it a listen. But because I'm not going to give it a fair shake if I'm not like totally into that genre, I guess. So
Yeah, that's fair.
and it's not fair to. It's not fair to the bands to not get a fair shake on it. So
no, absolutely.
You're right about the point of like we used to play a lot of shows together with, either death metal or deathcore or metalcore bands. Like that was really the bulk of other metal bands during our like teen years of like getting into metal and the metal scene kind of, or like the other kind of like small underground bands. Most bands were in their 20s as well, and you're right, that's much more common than thrash, but I think thrash is seeing an upswing right now. There's actually a couple of other Swedish young thrash bands, and I don't think there really were before, so that's interesting.
Well, that's a good thing to hear too, because
yeah.
because as strong as metal is as an overall genre over there in Europe, especially in the Scandinavian areas, because like we said before, we've I would say the bulk of our guests have actually been from Sweden specifically, but we've also talked to a couple of bands from Finland. So I mean, Scandinavia has been very well represented here on the show. So we're well aware of the strength of the scene, but it's good to hear that subgenre, especially for us, like we said, is having a surge, because especially with the age range that you guys are in, because it keeps it alive, and it'll allow for it to flourish with you guys being in your 20s. I mean, hell, you guys could theoretically have a 40 or 50 year career if everything goes well. So I mean, talking about being able to cement a legacy and have something moving forward for decades, which is amazing.
So another thing I was wanting to kind of ask about was the band name. How did the band name come about? Because I know I've seen when I looked you guys up, trying to find you guys on Spotify, and I hit Eradicated, it was pulling up some people, some bands spelled with a C too. So I was just like, oh, okay, maybe that's why the K come in. But
oh, I didn't know there were other bands with that name. We tried to find like something that sounded thrash and wasn't taken, and like kind of just that on its own is like in the age of Google, it's like how do you come up with a name? Well, it's got to be something where we can where you can search for it and it actually pops up, right? So and I don't know, it is a pretty cool name, and we also thought about like how do we kind of distinguish ourselves but just kind of give people a sense of what the music is. So that's kind of what we came up with. It wasn't like any better or worse. It's kind of what we could find. It was nice to have like one word.
Yeah. It works on a shirt better a lot of times if it's just one.
Yeah.
I say as I have a machine head, in 2 words, but I mean, there are a lot of band names out there that are like, that was a mouthful. Okay.
Yeah. says Squiska Bob or whatever that name is.
Yeah, Sanguisugabog. Yeah,
There you go.
But hey, it's still one word though. But it's like
it is. It's just long,
but
and it works for them evidently because they're pretty popular.
Yeah, there was actually it's funny you bring that up, Elvin, because I'm looking up my hit in the road notes from a couple weeks ago, and one of the band names on here. This is the name of the band. The world is a beautiful place, and I'm no longer afraid to die. That's the name of the band.
Right.
I'm like, holy shit, that is a long ass band.
How you get that on a shirt?
You gotta break it down into an acronym or something.
Yeah, but because of the length, you might remember it. If it sticks out enough, I guess.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, I was looking over like the past. We've been in. Let's see. We've talked to people in Finland, Sweden, then Finland again, Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, and then now we're back to Sweden. So yeah. We've hung out over there a lot this year. So.
Yeah, we have. We've hung out. We've definitely hung out a lot over there in spirit. I would give anything to be able to actually be there definitely physically at some point in the future. I mean, and not just to be able to kind of the potential to meet some of you guys, but to actually see the sights. Because I mean, everything I've ever seen, any videos or pictures from over there, it's just a beautiful part of the world.
I wouldn't be too psyched about coming over here.
So now Eradikated isn't the original name of the band, correct?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, original, we've had several names, but we had the name, the Generations Army, from 2014 to 2021 when we switched. But that was kind of, I mean, we did build a name for ourselves with that name. But it was kind of too long. People were forgetting it. I mean, the other guys in the band were just tired of it. I didn't mind. I was like, there are plenty of, bad names that became famous bands, like no one thinks like The Doors is a great name, but it works if once it starts sticking, it's like, but
great point.
yeah, but the others wanted a kind of rebranding. We weren't even a thrash band back then. We were playing some sort of like homemade pop rock, like just mixes of different genres, and our music has evolved. We've evolved. It's kind of like someone decided at some point, like, hey, we might as well rebrand. Like, we haven't played any shows barely, in 2 years because of the pandemic, and like it's like we haven't gotten that far. We can like
do a reset. Yeah.
Do a reset. Yeah.
I guess like the pandemic kind of gave you guys that opportunity to do so.
Yeah. And we kind of just like, we were working hard before the pandemic. Like in 2019 we played, and we were still like, some of us were still in school, and we were still like playing so many shows, going on tours, and like, and then the pandemic came, and it kind of just like, just became this natural break. Like we didn't do much for, a bunch of months.
Yeah, but it sucks to have a break forced on you though. But
yeah, I mean, sometimes it's also necessary, but like, at some point you start itching, and it's good that we're back on the road now.
And I think it would kind of, and I, not to say anything, because I'm not familiar with the previous work of Generation Army, but I feel like it worked out good for you guys to do, to have that opportunity to rebrand. And
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because I mean, just been seeing some of the reviews on the album, from some big sites, it's kind of cool to see. Is I think I seen was it Metal Injection or somebody gave you guys a review, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So we tend to like I want to say we jinx people into success because like we'll set up an interview, like we talked to a band in Germany called Hext. I had it set up for like 3-4 weeks, and then like right at the time when we're starting to interview them, they're like on everything, dude. I'm just like, they were posting stuff like, oh, we're on this interview, we're doing this, and we're in this magazine. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
They ended up, I think there was a festival they ended up at, and
wow. I like to think that I jinxed you guys into success. So there you
go. That's good.
Had a little bit of a hand in it, at least, anyway, hopefully. But
So I mean, we're not a big.
I'm blown away by the response so far, honestly. Like, I felt like when the first reviews started to come out, I was like, honestly, like, maybe I don't understand my own music because, like, wow, this is like.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else. It's like we talk about it. It's like I think just like we could put an album on right now, and all three of us could listen to it, and we would not all three agree on everything on the album. We're gonna pick different parts that stood out to us, and I say that a lot when I do album reviews because I listen to certain aspects. Like I say it this way: the first time we listen to an album, we just kind of listen to it. The second time we run an album through, we're listening to it, and then I think there's a difference in the way you say the word listening, because I think at the first pass you're just kind of like listening, all right, just enjoying it, you know what I mean? And then as a critic, you kind of like, all right, so let's go in here and see and listen a little closer. So then we're going in and listening a little closer and like, okay, and then we start picking out the good and the bad. So, luckily for us, there's not a whole lot of bad. So we've been pretty lucky on that end. So
yeah.
But
that also, I think that also kind of gives us, I would say probably gives us a little bit, because I'm not sure exactly if it's the same for you over there, Elvin, but all the new music comes out here on Fridays. As far as I know, it's still the same over there. So we have shows, our normal scheduled shows are on Friday night. So Friday, of course, Jason works night, so he has a little bit of a leg up on me because, when the album's released at midnight, he's awake. I'm asleep because I work in the mornings. So he actually has a chance to listen to what he wants to do for the show, like literally the second it drops if he wants to. So on Friday morning when I get up, I'll pick my album and I'll listen to it on the way to work and on the way home because I have a 30 to 35-minute commute depending on traffic. So I'm usually able to knock out, my album during the day on my drive, but that means I have one shot to listen to it, and then I have to, form an opinion, do my write up, and then boom, Friday night is when the show happens. So, albums, like Jason said, we get a chance to listen to it in order to do the album reviews for the show, but we have to do it like this. And if we get a chance to, we do the segment, we do the reviews, and after that, it's kind of out there that 3, 4, 5 horns, whatever it is, and then after that, so it's out there that after that, then we can, instead of being objective for the sake of the review, after that you listen to it that second time or third time. The second time, like, I'm going to focus on the guitar playing this time. And then the third time, maybe I'll focus on, the drums or what have you. You can pick out one thing to focus on after you do all right, I have to listen to this thing as a body of work so we can, give a guideline for the fans who listen and watch the show. So it allows, basically our album reviews are just the foundation of our opinion of an album. That's the way it is kind of for me. That's the way I look at it. So
when I listened to Descendants, because I think I was the one that did the review on the album.
You were, yeah.
So when I listened to that, like, I think one of the things that I said that I noticed was like, after a couple of times listening to it, I could see myself, like, now hearing some of those songs, like some of those songs have really distinctive guitar riffs in them. And we talk about that a lot, of how, certain songs will play and, like, you'll hear a riff and you're like, oh, that's, you'd be like, oh, that's Machine Head, or that's Ozzy, or you kind of know, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I feel like you guys have that. Like, I think if a lot of people listen to you guys enough of this album, and they put it, like, even if they put it in, like, their Spotify, and they just, and they'll like songs, and then they just kind of like shuffle play it or whatever. When a couple of those guitar riffs hit, they're going to be like, that's Eradicated. They're going to be able to know. Mm-hmm. I think you guys really do have that.
Wow. That's interesting. It's interesting to hear from the outside. Yeah.
Then go ahead, Chris.
I was about to say, I 100% agree with what Jason was saying, especially with the title track on the album. It's stellar, I thought.
I was re-listening to it a little bit this morning to try to prep for the show, and I don't know if I caught this before. I didn't mention it if I did, but that song "Dead Heaven," like it, man, it was like really had a Slayer vibe to me when I was listening to it. I said, "Oh man, this is definitely got a Slayer vibe." So
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't
then.
yeah, and that wasn't the only song where I kind of noticed that either. So that crept in a, you know, obviously in a good way as far as we're concerned, and you know, in more than one occasion.
And I think a lot of bands when they're writing and recording too, they don't. That's not a mindset when they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like they put it out there, and then like they probably don't even know. Like you probably didn't even notice that until I said something. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of like that. Till somebody actually brings it to your attention, you're kind of like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I can see that. So, you know.
Well, I know that Ragnar, who's been writing most of the riffs, and most of the songs for Descendants, like he is very influenced by Slayer, and he will actually admit that. So, and you know, he wants to be the next generation of Slayer. So that's not like, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of out in the open. But we want to hopefully have our own sound as well. You know, hopefully have the best of two worlds.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it doesn't sound exactly like Slayer. I just got the Slayer vibe.
Oh, sure, yeah. And even that being said, you could sign us up for that best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Sign us up for that.
We're definitely down for that for sure.
Yeah.
So, I was wanting to talk a little bit about the EP, the self-titled EP.
Right.
So I haven't listened to a whole lot of that album yet. But I was just kind of asking like what changes did you guys make as far as from the EP to the full length? Was there any like changes, or just, you know, or y'all just kind of like went in with the same flow?
So the self-titled EP is actually like bringing over some of the stuff from the Generations Army. So it's like, so those are old songs re-recorded, because when we changed our name, we had to release something so that we had, you know, something on kind of our profile and something to listen to. So that's actually a remake of older songs. So those songs on that EP, like we were like 14, 16 years when we wrote. So Descendants is also old by now, because we had to wait to release it for several years because of the pandemic, and we wanted to find a record label and so on. You know, it kind of just piled up, but that's kind of like, it's much newer. It's kind of written after we started to like more like solidly form our sound, or like our sound started kind of getting like solid or cemented. So you know, it's different, and it's also different how we wrote it and our approach and kind of our ambition as well. It's kind of like Descendants was, you know, we had this ambition, like we're gonna write this like full great album, and like you know, before we kind of just had different songs that evolved over the years, and also we were really young. Yeah.
So here's a question. So I don't know if you know this or not, but when you guys were Generations Army, did you have a lot of fans that came over with you guys when you changed, or was it kind of people were kind of like, they're going to change, I'm not going to be on board with it? Or
I don't think we lost any of our hardcore fans. I don't know, like when you say many fans, you know, I don't know how many that is, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, any of them in general ever like said anything like, oh, you guys changed?
No, I think we kept we kept our hardcore fan club pretty intact. Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, because I always hear bands like, you know, even like some of the bigger bands. I mean, you know, of course they're going to get a lot more critics because they're more in the spotlight, but they'll change the sound. You know, you take Metallica, for instance. I mean, you know, when they started changing their sound, everybody that was, you know, Ride the Lightning Master of Puppets fans were just like, oh, this is shit, and I'm not listening to it, blah, 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 blah. You know, and it's kind of like, they, you know, and, you know, I don't think it's hurt Metallica by no means, but, you know, because, you know, a handful of people didn't, you know, still like it. But, you know, without the Black Album, I mean, how far do you think Metallica would be as big as they are now? Probably not. I mean, so, I mean, you got to give you got to give that credit where it's due. So I mean, if it wasn't for that little change they did, from Injustice for All to the Black Album, then like I said, we probably would not be talking about them as much.
I mean, where you can't recreate. I mean, you can, but how many times do you want to recreate the same art piece? As an artist, there's. I mean, it goes both ways, I guess. There's integrity, as in like, how much do you want to kind of just like please others, but there's also the integrity of like, what do you actually want to create, and do you want to like be stuck in having to recreate exactly the same thing, or like, what do you want to? And it's like going into, like as we start writing our next album, we have to ask ourselves like, what are the things we like that we want to do more of that we haven't gotten enough of, and like, are the things that we have gotten enough of that we want to kind of like change around, or and what new things do we want to mess around with?
Right. As we move forward, how much of an evolution do we want to undertake without like losing our core sound? It's like it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
It's an absolute balancing act, because even we've brought this up, because Jason mentioned Metallica, but we've also brought up Disturbed before. Before Disturbed went on their hiatus, all they were getting was, they don't make anything any different. Everything sounds the same. They went on their hiatus and then came out, and when coming out of the hiatus with their Evolution album, which was titled that way for a reason, everyone was like, well, this isn't Disturbed. It's like, make up your goddamn mind, man. So I mean, so you're as an artist, of course, not being an artist, a musician personally, but still being a fan, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because like you say, you guys with the Generations Army, you had your fan base. You said you guys made a name for yourself, and you had a fan base, and they came over with the name change, which is awesome that they did that. But at the same time, you do have the fan base. So, I mean, you want to make them happy, but as an artist, you don't want to get stale either. So you have a sound and you want people to recognize it, but at the same time, you don't want it to be, if they deviate, I'm gone, so I mean, but at the same time, you don't want to feel like you're spinning your wheels. You get caught in a rut and you get bored.
Yeah. But that, I feel like also that music has like evolved a lot to like, there's, everybody's like listening to everything nowadays. And like, I guess back in the day, people were more in boxes. So I guess like, if I had to take a guess, I'd say that there is, in some way, I mean, in some ways not with the like how big the music industry is, but in some ways there's kind of more freedom to kind of probably keep your fan base and mess around with different sounds.
I could probably agree with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But let me ask you this. Let me get your opinion on this. Now we have talked about on the show before about experimentation as far as like bands go. They have, this is how they sound, this is how they made their name, and then they decide to kind of like go off in another direction a little bit. And I don't know if you've heard Avenged Sevenfold's new album or if you listen to them or not, but
No, I haven't.
okay, well their new album is almost a complete departure from their core sound. Like almost in its entirety from start to finish is almost an entire departure from what kind of made them who they are. What is your opinion about, doing a total album of just experimentation? What is your opinion on that?
I mean, they can do whatever they want, and
Sure.
like, I don't want to curse myself into not having that option in the future. Like right now for Eradicated, like we're happy with, how we're perceived, and there's like, we're just getting going with our kind of sound, but not only our sound, or style of performance, and like how we're using, how we're spending our time on stage, and like we kind of want to keep going. We want to evolve like what the foundation that we built, but I wouldn't say that you cannot completely try something new. And I mean, but I don't know, like I guess if they want to do something completely new, they could also just like start another band, if they wanted to keep the same members, like, but
well, it's weird you brought that up, because Foo Fighters for a long time got a lot of grief about being the way they are, and they, like I've been I've seen him a few times at festivals, and like everybody's always giving him shit about play something heavy or something. Somebody's always saying that to him out in the crowd or something. And then and Dave Grohl's like, oh, you want me to get like a death metal roar, and he starts doing all that stuff, and he can do it well. And so whenever they did that movie, they decided to do a full, it was like, I guess it was more of an EP, but it was like a death metal type EP, and it was the Foo Fighters. They just changed the name to Dream Widow, just because they don't want to get people confused with, okay, this is Foo Fighters, like, wow, but because they're not going to go out on tour and do that kind of thing with Foo Fighters, because it's not, it just wouldn't be, it's not what got them paid, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you said, like if you want to do just like Volbeat, Michael Poulsen does Volbeat, and then he's doing his death metal thing. So I mean, people bounce back and forth, and we talked about a lot, like one of the bands everybody hates is Nickelback, and like the brother Kruger, he like actually loves fucking metal, but he's like, I don't see Nickelback making a heavy metal album, so eventually I see him probably going out and doing that on his own, just because he likes it so much.
But I mean, cool. In the end, it's your platform, so it's kind of your call, and whatever you want. Like if you wanted, you get to decide if you wanted to, shake things up and talk about something other than metal, on this podcast, for example. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend that or not. Like that.
I'll say this: it stays metal, but we do kind of wander sometimes. But
right, yeah,
we try to reel it back in before it gets too crazy. But
yeah, I mean, people, your audience probably wants some metal references. That's kind of why they're here and not somewhere else, right? But it can't get too boring either, and there's lots of interesting aspects of life, or art or whatever.
Yeah, and I think you bring that up as like, I can probably think of at least 5 bands just right off the top of my head that kind of had that one album where they experimented. Even Testament did it with The Ritual, which was one of my favorite albums. Everybody shit on it, but I love that album. But it's just like, every band does that. It's not like it's nothing, out there. But when you have a band like completely change their sound for several albums, you're just like, okay, what's going on here? It makes you want to like, question like what they're doing. But like I said, when you're a band as big as Avenged Sevenfold, I guess they can do what they want to do. And there's people that love that album, which good for them. I mean, but as far as like being like a fan from the beginning of bands like that, you're kind of like, oh man, what's going on? And then you kind of like, I guess you can kind of see people's that was diehard Metallica fans in the beginning, how they felt when Blackout came out. You kind of can follow along, like, yeah, okay, I see it, but there was still like a lot of good stuff on the album. So it's like, I don't know, I just don't feel fair to me to shit on a whole album just because it's not the same as because like you said, you don't want to be the same, because then you're just playing a whole concert of the same shit over and over and over. So so you definitely want to be a little bit experimental. But
I mean, and they're playing, if you're playing 2-hour live shows, like you can't just play really fast riffs for 2 straight hours. Like nobody will enjoy that. Like, even if our, the bulk of our music so far is fast and very intense. Like, as soon as the sets get over 40 minutes, it's good to have at least, one or a couple of heavier, slower songs, for example.
All right, so tell us. So we've talked about the hey, Mr. Cat. We've talked about the album. So how, for you guys, how does the writing and recording process happen? I mean, where did you guys go to get the album recorded? Because you actually said you've actually more or less been sitting on the album for a while because of what happened with the pandemic and everything. So you said at this point, I mean, in your eyes, the songs are actually, quote unquote old.
Yeah.
But so how does the recording process happen for you guys?
So our rehearsal space is actually in Ragnar's living room, and he's built his home studio kind of as soon as he finished school, he started working and saving up and buying gear for a studio. So so we have our own studio. So we've recorded everything at home, so to say. Um, and yeah, and then we didn't mix it ourselves, but we recorded it, and that's a curse and a blessing. Blessing because we can do what we want and take our time. A curse because without the time pressure, it's like, um, yeah, you could imagine like it was like, is this good enough? Should we spend another couple months redoing the guitars, or like, are we done now? Yeah. So,
Makes
and we'll
sense.
see for the future, like we might find ways to maybe like, um, you know, I don't know, get into a studio for a week just to have the pressure of like, getting it done or whatever. I don't know, but it's really great to have your own studio, and it's also like, we're gonna meet tomorrow to do some writing and rehearsing, but mostly writing together. Yeah.
Nice. I know another band we talked to on here a while back, which is I'll bring them up again later on. But there was a band called Ashes Rain, and Vinny was talking about how they had their studio and they would record. They wouldn't really record. They would just kind of like jam out. Well, I mean, they did. I guess they did record a little bit, and then they would like make sure they were fine tuned before they went to the studio, and then they did studio recording because they said, well, that way we kind of know where we're at. So when we get there, we're not spending, we're not having to spend any extra money more than a week, trying, almost on a, studio space, which is kind of smart, I guess, because
Yeah.
you're wasting a bunch of money, 3-4 months worth of money for to get the album fine tuned.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what size of this is, but we still don't have that kind of money. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Just like I said, most of the bands we talk to still have 9 to 5s. I mean, and that's kind of like
Right.
and that's kind of like everybody that's followed the show kind of knows that's what we do. We're trying to get these bands that we think should deserve the props and should be at that next level. And hopefully, I feel like this way, even if we can get you guys, 5-6 extra people. Just saying, I'm not saying that, as a number that we do. I'm just saying, even if it's just 5 or 6, that's more than what you had. You know what I mean? So it's kind of,
Right.
kind of, like, and then that 5 or 6 tells their 5 or 6. You know what I'm saying? That's how it goes. And then before you know it, you go to a show and there's 1,500 people out there listening to your music. It's just great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we actually had a surprisingly good turnout on our release show, which was like in our kind of the town that we studied in. So it's kind of like our home city as far as that goes, and even though we're from the countryside, and we were like, we were like, well, we can probably, it was our first time I think ever headlining and selling tickets, and we were like, well, we can probably get 150 200 people there, and then like almost 400 people showed up, so it was amazing.
Nice. Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, and you said you guys have, had a chance to go on tour. So, I mean, how far out have you guys been able to get?
Oh, it depends on what you mean with chance. I mean, we just went on a tour opening for Soilwork, so I mean that was a serious stuff. We played 5 shows, 4 in Sweden and 1 in Denmark together with them, so that was amazing. But our tours before then so far were like, our first European tour was like completely self-organized. I was just like, emailing these clubs like during classes in school, and like connecting with other, I was like, I was sitting during whatever class it was, and like messaging all these like find local metal bands in like Czech Republic or like Poland or whatever, and like trying to book us gigs, because I had just decided that we were going on this tour together, and that was a pay to play tour. Like we played these small shitty basements throughout Europe, but we grew a lot as musicians. It was very fun. I would never redo that tour again, but it was great to have to do it. you know um So, and then we did like, and then some places like really, really liked us, and like some venues were great, and like, so some venues, we had like a person and a half in the audience, but every now and then there was like, there would be like 100 people loving it, and so we would go back. We went back a couple of times to Poland because we made friends there, and has found some good venues, and and then like got booked at a festival, and like so we've done like between 2017 and 2019, we did a bunch of like going around Europe for 2 weeks, 10 days, a weekend, a couple of times, that sort of thing.
So like I almost don't even have to ask that one question now, because that's kind of a crazy story that, like a lot of us that ever had inspirations to be in bands probably could relate to, being in class and just writing out or drawing out like album covers or something that you're
yeah.
like actually I remember back when I was in high school, I was in a band. I was a bass player in a band, which I can't play with shit anymore, but it was kind of one of those things where you did in high school, and then things happen, life gets in the way, and I kind of veered away into some other stuff. But anyway, it's like, I was actually turning in papers with, our logos or something, where I've been practicing on our logos or whatever, and it'd be on my homework. It's like teachers would be like, "What the hell is this?" It's like, I was like, "Oh, that's our band logo." It's like, so I can, it's definitely to be like, it's just like, hey, where'd you start writing your album at? I was in study hall and started writing lyrics.
Yeah, I was in algebra class.
Started writing lyrics out.
Yeah.
We are.
Well, it's definitely one thing to be daydreaming about like your band name or band logo, and it's another thing to be in class and you're like, "Dear madam or sir, we would like to book a show for."
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot different.
Yeah. I mean, but you can do it. Like,
oh sure.
It started with like actually like a family friend was like, I had this guitar student who's like has this club in northern Switzerland, and like maybe he can book you guys, and like, and then I don't remember if he reached out to me or I reached out to him, but like all of a sudden like we had this one show. It was actually going to be paid. It was at a club. This was kind of just chance and connections, but and like at this club in Switzerland. And I don't know if you know any European geography, but like driving from Sweden to Switzerland is like, that's one hell of a drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we're gonna get a couple stops in Germany on the way at least, try to. And we didn't have any contacts back then, so I was just like, okay, how do you do this? I got a list of venues from this guy who like my dad knew, and like started just like, I think we emailed 100 venues and got like one show, which was like really shitty. But then I found the Metal Encyclopedium and like started reaching out to bands on
Yep.
Facebook that were active and kind of in similar genres. And, that kind of, that worked better, but it was still lots of, I had to message, hundreds of bands or whatever. Like, and then all of a sudden we had 10 shows, and, yeah, you can do it. It's pretty cool, but a lot of hard work and no pay, and
and
we're exhausted coming home from that.
Yeah, and you're doing all this as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just
now I don't. Now we have bookers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that shows your dedication to what you wanted to do at a young age, which is crazy because a lot of people graduate high school and still don't know what they want to do with their life. So,
right.
You being 14 and in there trying to get shows booked for a band is just like crazy to me to think. Like, you knew what you wanted to do from that point, I think, and and it's awesome that you guys were able to fulfill that. You are fulfilling that dream now. So it's
and important experiences. Like,
right.
Exactly.
I mean, talk about getting out there and paying your dues, man. I mean,
yeah,
like you say, you go show up to this one venue and it's basically a glorified hostel, and one dude's over in the corner and he's the only dude watching your show. So I mean, but I mean, you're doing all that stuff and going out and doing it yourself. I mean, that's major league, like Jason said, dedication and as a slight aside, Encyclopedia Metallum is an amazing website, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
I don't know who runs it, but I
I
was
don't
so
either.
surprised, like, because it's actually up to date.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, they stay on top of it. So.
yeah.
Like we'll change our name or release a new album or something, like, and it's on there. I don't. How do you keep track of
Yeah,
like thousands of really small bands like making small changes? I don't know.
yeah.
Like,
It's an amazing database for
There's
heavy metal.
got to be some like informer or something that's working for them that does all the says, hey, this band's this now, or because I mean, I guess some of the bands may want to send it in and try to update their profile too. I'm sure there's a way to email them and say, hey,
Well,
we're not this band anymore. We're this band, or
well,
we were nobodies, and like I was using it to find other really small local bands, and we were already on there, and I was like, what is this play?
how did we get on here?
It's the work of the devil or something. It's like black magic.
yeah, because I have the Eradicated page pulled up right now, and it's got the Generations Army, and you open up that link, and the former band is right there, and it says they changed their name, and then so you go over to the new page. So both of the pages are there, and they're, like I say, they're up to date. And what's funny is there's a guy that I work with, and he works on the dock with me, and he's actually, well, they have split up since this story, but he was in a metalcore band, and they, as far as I know, have never been outside of Tennessee, but they had their own page on Encyclopedia Metallum. And
Oh, wow.
when I found out that he was in a band, he was like, well, what's the name of your band? Because we were talking about it until, well, we got a show, and if you guys put out an EP or something, I mean, or if you guys release a single, so you guys put a single out, let us know, we'll put it on the show. If you guys ever release an EP or whatever. Because I mean, I see this kid, he's like 29, so I'm 45, so he's a kid to me. But this, he's in a band, so like, dude, you put out a single, let me know. You put out an EP, let me know. Come on the show, because I see this kid like 5 days a week, And when I found out that that his band had a Encyclopedia Metallum page, I went to it, and I saw that the picture that they had was out of date, because the guy I work with, he's the singer in the band. Well, they're a 4-piece, and I noticed the picture, he wasn't in it. So, and then they had somebody else listed as the singer. So I sent a little message real quick, and I said, I did a little bit of an update, and I said, I won't, so you guys have the singers, the wrong singer, and this is the singer's name. And they were like, well, how do we know that this information is accurate? And the little comment thing, I said, I work with the guy, and I hit submit. And then like the next thing you know, within I don't know, a couple hours, the information was up to date. I was like, Jesus, it's like, so I mean, it's like that. It's ridiculous. So I mean, yeah, even now, they don't get me wrong, they haven't had everyone that we've dealt with every time, because like Jason says, when we go to do our album reviews, we have a website that we refer to that has a list of all the new releases every Friday. And there's been a couple times where such and such band hasn't been on there, but I mean, you talk about what, 99 times out of 100, any band that we review, we can find them on there. And like I say, your guys' band was no exception. So I mean, it's the most comprehensive. It's the most comprehensive source that I have found as far as heavy metal goes. I don't think it's even close, really.
I was actually surprised when we did that Eradicated was on there, because a lot of times people with their debut albums usually aren't on there. It usually takes them an album or two to before they pick up on it. But yeah, I was like, oh wow, they're already on Encyclopedia Metallum. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we were on there at least in 2017 as the Generations Army. Like, yeah, I don't, yeah. But good for anyone who wants to, book their own pay-to-play tour and get some experience playing live shows. Like, it's, you're not going to get much cash, but might be fun, might be a good experience.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else that we do as far as entertainment business is you're networking. You know what I'm saying? If nothing else, because like you say, you got on to open up for soil work or something. I mean, that's a pretty big deal for a small band to open up for soil work. So, and those guys probably And it's crazy to think, but I bet at least one of them remember you. I was like, oh
Oh,
yeah, I
they
remember.
remember us. They're really nice. Yeah. They're really happy.
And it's kind of crazy to think that, because if you think, I mean, how many bands have probably opened up for them? You know what I mean? It's like, and we had a guy when I was in professional wrestling that would do that. It's like, I met the guy like maybe twice, and I wouldn't see him for like years in between shows. And then I'd see him on a show, and he'd be like, "Oh, hey JT, how you doing?" I'm like, man, how the fuck you remember my name? Like,
Yeah, people are different with that. I'm not that good at names and faces. Like, I'm not bad, but people know who I am, and I don't always know who they are. And
oh yeah, we
which
always
is very different. Which is different from the other guys in my band are much better at remembering people, actually. Or like,
yeah,
I'll remember people, but I don't know exactly who they are.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm better with faces than I am names. Like, and I kind of feel bad. Like, I know you, but I don't remember your names.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough situation to be in, and then especially I guess Elvin, for you, something like that. I mean, you start to, because like you said, you at your release party you were expecting 1 to 200 and you had
Right.
400, and you know let's just say for sake of argument that you're at the store and somebody bumps into you like, dude, I really enjoyed the release show, and you were like, well, thanks for coming. And they'll be like, yeah, I was like, I was like stage left and fourth person over, and you'd be like, okay, cool. I have to take your word for it, because I can't remember everybody who was at every show. So I mean,
Well, but
you end up, you feel bad, but it's like, dude, no, very few people have like that mind of like a steel trap like that. So it's super rare. So
I mean, what happens to me is people think I know them, so they'll say hi and they won't tell me their name because they think I already know it, because
Yeah.
maybe because someone else in the band knows them, and like people just, I don't know if they think that like we gossip about everybody so that like we're all up to speed. I don't know, but like and at that point it's too awkward for me to ask, hey, what's your name again? Or, like, I should become better at that, but it's like I get awkward, and then like and then it's too late, because now we're really supposed to know each other.
right. It's like, well, we've met each other twice now. We're practically family. How do you not know my name?
That they don't have a Kevin in their band like Devil does.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they don't have a guy who knows Matt Heafy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, that was like one of the craziest stories.
That was an insane story. That was great. So considering that, I guess in your mind, since like I say, you had to wait a little bit to release the new album, how is the process coming along? And it seems kind of silly to ask so soon, considering that the album just came out. But I mean, where do you personally see yourself at, as far as, because you said you guys are going to get together tomorrow? How ready do you think you guys are for the follow up?
We're getting there. I'm not making any promises right yet, but
Sure.
I'm interested in, like, I've been with these songs for forever. Like, so, I mean, it's going to take, you know, it's going to be at least a year after Descendants before our next release.
Yeah.
But, I think you can expect more from us in I think we have written some songs so far, and we're going to keep writing more songs. And I'm pretty psyched up about it, actually, already. Like, I kind of have some of our newest songs in my head, kind of, or that they're not even complete songs, but the ideas, like trying to figure out lyrics and like other things. So it's started to move. Yeah, it's moving.
Are you guys going to do any tours to support Descendants, or?
We want to play as much as possible. We had a release show. We had a pre-release show as well, and then we went, to open for Soilwork, 5 gigs, and we have a couple of shows booked, and like there's gonna be probably some festivals in the summer. Hopefully, we can get a more proper tour like in the spring. maybe opening for another band. We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. We didn't have like a huge release tour, which we would have wanted. The reality is what it is. It's still hard to compete.
What's that? What is
Yeah.
that? What is that big festival over there that everybody talks about in Sweden?
Sweden Rock Festival.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, we played there. We opened the whole festival this year. It was
nice.
It was really cool. Yeah. Because of the time slot, it was like, people are like queuing up. This is Sweden's big rock festival. Like there's nothing bigger in Sweden. And people are queuing up. People are queuing up, at the gates, waiting for the gates to open on the opening day.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the gates open, or like an hour afterwards, we started playing. So we had a golden time slot. So there was 6 to 12,000 people watching us, which is amazing. That was really cool.
And I said, well, I went to a few festivals there a couple of years in a row, and I think that was like the biggest thing for me was going to these local stages and checking out the local bands in between some of the bigger band sets. And honestly, we've become friends with a lot of bands that I've actually caught on those festivals. So actually, we've had, I don't know, a handful of those bands on the show already. So it's kind of cool to be able to say, hey, I caught you guys at this festival, and oh wow, I think that as a band, to me, if I was in the band and somebody said it to me, I was like, oh man, that's cool. You took your time out to actually come over and watch, us instead of, going to get food, waiting on Megadeth to play or something. It's like so it's kind of cool. And like I said, man, some of those bands were amazing, and they've actually gotten a little bit more notoriety since then, which is cool. I like to think we had a little bit of part to play in that, hopefully. But I mean, because we do a lot of social stuff too. It's like if you guys I've shared stuff from you guys on our socials, and besides the stories, you guys had the album come out. We kind of did the posting the album, say, hey, check out this album. We kind of do what we can to try to help promote bands like you guys that are up and coming, and hopefully get you guys to that stage where the next band's opening up for you. So,
Right.
and hopefully we're still around to push that band. So it's
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
But we're working on 3 years of this, and like I said, we decided this is what we wanted to do, because I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that do things for the bigger bands. You know what I mean? Like they're talking to the Metallicas and the Jamie Jostas and all this, and everybody does it. So I was like, well, when me and Chris was talking, I said, man, let's do a podcast where we're promoting smaller bands, and let's give them a chance and give them a platform to sell their sales to an audience, without having all big time production. It's kind of hard, but I mean, it's still, we do what we can, and we enjoy doing it. We're not making anything out of this. I mean, it's pretty much our time, just like, you were talking about pay to play. That's kind of what we do. And like, you're talking about you sending out emails and, sending out 100 and getting one out of 9, one back as a yes. And I'm just like, yeah, I can relate to that. So
Right. Yeah.
like I send emails out to a lot of bands, and it's and it's crazy how it works, because you'll send out these emails and then you'll get I think at the time you responded, I had 3 emails out, and then you responded, and I was like, cool, we'll set this up. And and then now that I got you scheduled, I've gotten 3 emails for upcoming shows. I'm just like, okay, now I gotta plan this out accordingly, because we have a show next week already. So and then the following week is a holiday here, Thanksgiving. Right. So I'm not doing anything that weekend, but I am if they are. So but and then December 1st, I already have somebody lined up. So it's kind of like we're going into here now. It's like oh man, everybody's like coming back at once. But it's cool to have that, because sometimes you're just like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do as far as getting, interviewed. Because like honestly, I would love to do this every week. We have a regular content show where we go through the news and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as like sitting down talking to bands, I'd rather do this every week than to put out kind of a repetitive content, because when you're talking to bands, you get a different different personalities and different
different perspectives and points of view, and we get to
and all the bands are in different positions in their career too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. Yeah, because hell, our very first live guest was a band that you saw at a festival, Jason. So, that's how we got introduced to them, and then that's where our first band came from, was being quote unquote discovered at a festival. So I mean, it's a great way. It's a great way to do it, and we've kind of, as Jason said, we've kind of developed the show kind of trying to build our fan base and allow bands that are trying to do the same thing kind of us to come up together. So I mean, but you guys are so much further along in the process than some of the bands that we've talked to. I mean, we've talked to bands who, after their album has come out, we talked to them, and one band was like, yeah, we've never even, all five of us have never even played live together on stage. So yeah, so I mean, there's definitely been different points in a band's life cycle that we've experienced along the way here, going, like Jason said, after having done this almost 3 full years now. I mean, we're to the point where we're at, and then you guys are, an EP and a full length studio album. You guys have opened for a major act. You've been on festivals. You've had thousands of people watch you, and it's a great thing. I mean, you've gone out there and pounded the pavement. You're getting ready to record your album. So I mean, you guys are all over the place, and you're making it all happen yourselves. And you're out there just beating down doors, and it's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. No, it really is. Yeah.
I think it's crazy of how. I think it's. Go ahead, Evan.
Oh, I just wanted to say, like, we are very self-made, but luckily we're also kind of backed by this team at this point, which is kind of newer to us. But we got signed a year ago, and like it's been a ride since then. But yeah, it's
referring to indie recordings. Is that who you're referring to?
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy how everything's kind of reverted back to maybe how you did things in the 80s. You know what I mean? Because I think bands in the 80s kind of did the same thing you're doing now. Was trying to beat down doors, get into especially if you were in California, you was trying to get into the Sunset Strip and get into some of the clubs there and get your name known and all this stuff. And like they were doing the foot traffic themselves. Mm-hmm. And like then I think it went into like maybe in the 90s and 2000s where everybody was dependent on like a record label or a manager to do all the work for them. And now I see a lot more bands kind of like getting away from, even like bands that have been around, like Nonpoint. Nonpoint's went back to doing everything on their own. They don't have a recording, they're recording all their own stuff. They don't have any labels, or they got their own kind of label. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Things are reverting back to we're doing everything ourselves. It's like, wow, this is crazy. But I mean, anyway, whatever works for, and I think it depends on the band too, what works for what band.
I mean, it's like what you enjoy doing. Like me personally, I love the live performances. I don't love bookkeeping.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you can get someone else to do that for you, of course you definitely do it. I mean,
that part was a bad example because we're actually doing that ourselves, but luckily it's not my job.
There you go.
Somebody else takes care of the accounting.
Yeah, that's something a drummer can do. Let the drummer do it.
Yeah. Or the bass player in this case.
Yeah.
Oh, the bass player. Okay. Well, the funny thing is, I was gonna say bass player, but the bass player always gets shit on. So I mean, I was trying not to say bass player.
Yeah, but truth is hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's that's true.
Oh, you might be too young to remember the story, but there was a story like years ago where this lady actually tried to sue the band because she slept with the bass player and said he wasn't actually a member. So
Oh, I actually haven't heard that one before.
she's like, oh, he said he was in the band, but he's just the bass player. Like, but he's still in the band. You
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a joke at a time. Like, I don't know. This is this is borderline mean, but I was joking at a time because it's very he's very busy in school, and like we had to like we had to do a couple shows at some point without him and like get a stand-in. But I was joking that like, oh, he's just our permanent stand-in.
Wow, that's funny.
That's awesome.
Actually, actually wrote a little skit that I was working on because I do some acting on the side too. So I was working on a skit with kind of the intent of actually it was kind of influenced by Exodus being broke down in was it Oregon or something that time they were broke down or like
it was somewhere in the northwest.
They were actually
exactly remember where.
They're actually stuck near Donner's Pass. So it kind of like made me think. I was like, I don't know if you know the story of Donner's Pass, but the people got stuck there in the snow and actually had to camp out. Now, and they were there for so long they had to wind up like figuring out who to eat because they were
they had to resort to cannibalism. Yeah,
because they were to survive. So so it was kind of like a story based on them being stuck and then going back to that. So in the whole anyway, the whole context was I had the band members talking about like, hey, you know, who we're going, you know, who can we eat or whatever, and you know, the drummer was like, well, we can eat the bass player. He don't matter anyways. Like, no.
It's kind of. I think it's kind of like it's got to be a running gag.
Oh, I'm sure it is. You know?
It's got to be, and I don't even think it's just in heavy metal. I think any form of music that has a bass player, I think that joke kind of exists. It's just kind of, I don't know where the hell it started, but it got legs, and now it's just kind of like perpetuated itself into its own animal. So I just, but it's still. But it's funny though. But I bet since Erland is, you guys have been friends for so long, you guys probably talk shit to each other anyway, having known each other for so long. So
there's way too much shit and whatever testosterone combined, and too many hours in a van.
Yeah.
So also they're brothers. So
well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, bandmates and brothers. I mean, they've literally probably at that rate, they're probably never apart. They've probably never been apart, being brothers, and then they're in the same band. They probably give each other more hell than they would if they were literally just friends. I mean, just, man, get out of my face, shit like that. So there's no talent. Because I mean, my brother and I, we were the same way until we got to the point where we grew up and got our own, moved out and all that stuff. So, I mean, but we used to be that way. But then having to be, like you say, in a van driving across country and stuff like that, I bet it gets interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, just the back seat driving when one of them is driving, it's like that's quiet.
Well, yeah. So I guess like the worst scenario I've seen on talking to bands on here, we talked to a band called Source of Rage from Germany, right?
Germany, yeah.
So there's three brothers.
Three brothers, yeah. They got three brothers.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, I've never heard of that before, and I'm just like, wow, that's good. So I think the drummer is the only one that's not Ken. Is that right?
I can't remember what I don't remember what member, because they're it's a quartet and three of them are brothers. I can't remember which. I can't remember.
Either way, you can just see them like in a spat. The guy that's not the brother just going.
He's like, I just got to let him go. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna be over here. Y'all do what you got to do. So,
yeah, just sitting in the corner, practicing double strokes.
So is there like are there any hard copies available to buy for Descendants?
Oh yeah, I mean there's vinyl if you're into that.
Okay.
Oh, there are plenty of people who are into that. Absolutely.
Oh
yeah, absolutely.
So I've found out. Yeah.
It's coming back. It's definitely coming back around.
It is like
and And
Yeah.
the cool thing about it is it's coming back around, and not just from like a collector standpoint, because I don't like, I think vinyl, as far as collecting, I don't think vinyl ever really went away as far as collecting, but people are actually coming back around to vinyl as a physical media to actually listen to.
Yeah.
Actually putting the record on and listening to it is actually coming back around. That's actually kind of cool. So
I mean, I did give it a spin here at home, like when I got my copy.
sure, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, um, I don't I don't know this stuff, but I'm pretty sure you can order it like in most on online shops where you would order stuff like that.
Okay.
So is Indie Recordings like doing the distributing for you guys?
Yeah, yeah.
They're doing that.
It's
Okay,
like so it's like out there, and I don't know exactly what that means, but there's a lot of sites where you can buy it. I
Yeah.
would be surprised if it wasn't, on the sites where you would go to order something like that. I mean, and we sell the, copies at our shows, but
Okay.
hard to send
You,
them to the US.
are you guys on Bandcamp or?
I was just about to say I just pulled up Bandcamp and it's on there. So
Okay. Cool. Cool.
yeah, it's got a digital album for seven. What is that? €7, I guess. What is that? I go €7. I don't know.
Probably
And
like
then
10 bucks or something.
$10, yeah. And then there's a CD, there's a vinyl LP. So yeah, so you can get it digitally, you can get it physically. It's over there. So
Yeah, that's definitely something I like to have physically in my hands because, like I said, I really enjoyed the albums. I always
yeah,
like to.
have
Like
the
sometimes I just want to put stuff in and just let it play. You know what I mean?
right.
I
Yeah.
don't want to mess with shuffling and all that shit. Sometimes you just want to be in the mood where just let it play and just chill back and drink a beer and just listen. Just listen. So and an album would be great too. I mean, either way. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to try to see where I can get my hands on it. So I'm a hands on type guy, so I don't like I got digital service and stuff, but
Sure.
like I said, I can go to Spotify and listen to it, but that's I don't know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just want to hear the crisp, versions.
Oh yeah.
Especially with albums, you get a lot more crisp versions and stuff on the vinyl. So
yeah, Elvin,
Yeah,
I don't know if
it's a real thing,
yeah.
Well, Elvin, I don't know how many copies were available, but there's only 7 copies of the CD left available on Bandcamp. So I mean, I don't know how many there.
Wow.
I don't know what the allotment was, but there's only 7 left. If that makes you feel any better. So
I don't know. Maybe that's 7 out of 7.
He's like, well, I ain't got no damn check. Like, what the hell?
so I don't know. So it's but I guess as we're talking about the actual album. So I mean, we always like to ask this because it's another thing that we like to learn about every band we talk about, especially speaking of having the physical media. And one of the things that we like about physical media is the album art. So so where did where was the album art done, and what was the inspiration for it and all that good stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, like everything else, it was a process of like coming up with, it's like, what's the, what do we want? What do we want to represent this music, this story, as a cover? And we kind of had different ideas, and the concept actually Ragnar drew himself, and then it was made by um, an artist, Felicia is her name, who's like actually like specializes as like in anatomy and I think birds as well, or like and like is like into metal and stuff. So it was like we just found like through our connections. I don't know who knew her, but yeah, it was like the perfect match for someone to like draw a human becoming crow. It's like great detail. It's kind of like
you can click on that, Jason. It will get bigger.
and you can interpret it, the meaning of it for yourself. I guess it's the image of a quote unquote perfect human, and then it's becoming this crow, which is a symbol of death, but also traditionally a symbol of renewal. Do with it what you will.
Right. Cool. So next time you get her to do the art, and it's like a phoenix, and then y'all can call the next album Up from Ashes or something.
There you go.
That is really cool though. Like,
yeah.
And,
because at the same time, the human, like you say, the human is evolving
Right.
from the bottom up, but you can also see the wings, and you can still see the hands in the wings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you'll see that there's you'll see the detail once you have the physical thing as well.
Yeah. So where did the design for your guys' actual current the font that you guys are currently using, where did that come from?
Oh, I'm the wrong person to like. This is also like when we in 2021 when we were like, okay, we're rebranding. This is our like, I think it was our manager Martin, who's all at this point kind of our fifth member, like really part of the family, even though he's a generation older than us.
Okay.
He's he has loads of contacts, and he found someone who was like eager to try out some designs for logos, and kind of like I don't know, I'm not a like I don't care too much for like the whole like selling stuff thing, but to the others, or at least some of the others, it was really important that we have a really cool logo, which kind of like went together with coming up with the band name as well.
I kind of brought this one up because I thought they detailed the actual logo a little better.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I guess the same person drew this one as well, since it's a crow.
No, that was a different graphic designer.
Really?
He was who made the 3 singles.
Okay.
But he also did the like the album, the actual album, Descendants album, like the rest of the graphic design, like except for the everything except for the character.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Like you get 2 different people, but they kind of went along in the same pattern with the birds and stuff. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, he elaborated on kind of the like what we already got. It was kind of like, do we want something that just ties everything together? And at some point, that's kind of just what happened organically, as like he was trying out different stuff, and we were like, yes, no.
Right.
Sure.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Crow movie, so I'll always always like the Crow stuff. So. But I mean, like I said, a lot of bands kind of grasp onto something like that and just say, "Oh, well, this is pretty cool," so we'll just kind of involve that and incorporate it in every album cover somehow. You know what I mean? So even though you may not have like a full fledged crow or something on, but kind of like put it, on a
it kind of becomes a it can become like a kind of like a little bit of a trademark thing, and you kind of like you can kind of like Easter egg it in there somewhere, and then people can like start looking for it. So I mean,
I do that a lot and stuff. So I'm just like, hey, where's this at? I know it's in here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely kind of just became the symbol for Descendants, at least, and it was like, I don't know if someone else picked it out, because this was all, like a bunch of years before. If people were asking me like, what are some different symbols we can pick out from the lyrics, and like, that's kind of what stuck with people.
It's pretty cool though. I think it goes.
It's very well done.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I think it flows well because you kind of, you got a crow here, and then with the evolution from man to crow there, it can, kind of flows really well, I think so.
Well, with the design that they used on Descendants, you can there is a flow to it of the evolution. Everything. The character itself is in a circle. Which represents of some. Obviously, going full circle. But then like the character itself evolves from the ground up and then out. So you kind of get the full circle kind of deal with the circle around the character, and then the character itself. You see I mean the tie-in is very well done. I think it works pretty flawlessly. The visual representation with the musical representation. I think the tie-in is phenomenal. So,
and I do love the way the band's logo is written out. It's pretty cool.
Oh, the symmetry of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the eye is like right there in the middle.
Exactly. That's what I like about it. I think the most is the way it's right there, and it's almost like it looks, if you look at it like from way back here, it almost looks 3D.
A little bit, because the way the D, the I, and the K right there in the middle, the way they're all formed together, it kind of does create kind of like a visual outward flow of it, like a projection. So I do like the way it was thought of. So Elvin, you may not have thought too much about it, but it turned out really well, and we like it. So
yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it.
So I know we'll probably wrap it up here in just a minute, but we always like to. I know you guys haven't done a whole lot of touring, but is there anything like on tour that's ever kind of stuck out to you, or something crazy that happened that you may always remember? Or
well, he already told us there was half of a dude at a show.
Well, I know, but
oh, I mean, there are so many stories. And I did what I didn't tell you, which was actually a year ago. We actually also opened a bunch of shows for Anvil here in Canada as well.
Nice.
And I don't know. There are stories from there, like one of the guys in Anvil, like smoking a joint, like just like under the kitchen ventilation system, and then causing a scene and whatnot. Like, I don't know. there are many stories we could talk about, but like picking out something. Yeah.
Well, it's good when you have such a library of memories. You're like, Jesus, which one do I go with? Yeah.
Especially at your young age, it's kind of like, wow.
Right. Yeah.
We played a festival in Poland once, but that was like the middle of the night. Like it was so everything was like so off schedule. The sound engineer was so drunk and so mad, and just like red in the face, yelling at us. There were these like big tires by the stage, and like to stop people from going up upon the stage, because it was kind of like ground level. It was kind of just like out in the field by a hill, kind of like muddy and rainy, and people were just like tripping because they were still like kind of moshing and really drunk, and they were just tripping in these tires, and then like tripping all over the stage. And like, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff you've experienced on the road. But it worked out well for us. I don't know. Like we haven't had any major disasters actually, so it's mostly just fun stuff to talk about.
Well, that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of like some of the stuff that we've gotten from a lot of the bands was like a prank they played on each other, or something like that. It was it's all I just like hearing stories in general, just because every band has a different story.
Right. Yeah.
Especially from the road, and all. Like, I was in the entertainment business too, so most of my best stories are from the road. So it's like there's some wild stories out there from anytime you're on the road, especially with a lot of other people too. So.
Yeah, I mean, we went with these two other bands for like 10-day tour in Europe in the spring of 2019, and that was a whole lot of fun and messiness, and all sorts of messes, and like when you're on the road with other guys who you don't like. I mean, one of the bands we knew well, but they're characters, and they brought along this other band who we didn't know, which were like, yeah, stuff happens.
What kind of stuff?
Elvin, you're deflecting. What are you?
Oh, I would go laughing up. That's why.
He's like, I don't want to incriminate anybody on the show here, so.
Exactly. Where do I even start?
No. It's a good point.
Yeah, so that kind of reminds me of going through like a lot of my old photos, and like my wife like finding some of my party day photos, and she's like, man, you better hide that. You'll go to jail showing shit like that. It's like, she's like, how did they even develop that and not get in trouble? Because like a lot of times back in the day, like if you had anything, paraphernalia or nude or anything like that, Walgreens would or whoever you had like do the photos would flag it and then like throw it away. You would never even see it. They was like, we'll shred that because we don't need that out there or whatever. But now they just like, whatever, it's your shit, develop it and go on again. It's crazy how different the world is now. But
yeah,
we've definitely done, like back in the day, a photo shoot or 2 or 3 in like, places where we broke in to do them, for sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ain't nothing more metal than that. I mean,
that's right. I'm telling you. Yeah. just a little bit of like, light breaking and entering. Not that big a deal.
If you're not damaging anything, I don't see what I don't see.
Nah, yeah.
It ain't like you went in there and trashed the place. You just went in there and took, and I imagine like from the looks of some 80s album covers and stuff, you just like, yeah, there ain't no way they had permission to use some of
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Half them damn places look haunted and shit. Like,
right.
It's some abandoned house somewhere.
Right.
Elvin, man, we'll wrap it up. I know you're winding down over there, and we're about to get our day started. So man, we really do appreciate you coming on and talking to us a little bit, and hopefully big things.
Bigger things. They've already done big things. Yeah,
they've already done some pretty big things. I said, man, he started naming off these bands he's open for. I'm like, man, that's awesome that you're age to be, And I don't know if you're familiar with this band, but that's kind of like Wall wore the shirt for because Tetrarch, are a very young band too, and over here in the States. So it's cool to see that even in different parts of the world that a lot of younger people are still trying to
keeping it alive,
no matter what. And like I said, we talk about different genres of music, and let me tell you right now, if you're a death metal fan, like, man, there's like so much stuff out there. Yeah. I feel like sometimes I'm just like, man, I wish I was a death metal fan because there's so much shit. Like every week it's death metal. I'm just like, damn. It's just not it just never has like drew me in, I guess. But
yeah, no, same, yeah. Thanks for having me. It was lots of fun talking to you.
Yeah, man. Like hopefully we can do it again in the future when y'all have the next album out.
Yeah, man. Even if it's a year out, like you said, we'll keep tabs on progress and let us know when some more music's going to come out, and we'll do this thing again in 2024, man.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. All right, man. Good luck with everything tomorrow, and hopefully it goes well, and then hopefully it's the start of something you guys will be proud of. I'm sure it will be.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Yeah, you too, man.
Elvin. Take care, man.
Then everybody go over to Bandcamp and buy some hard copies.
That's right. Absolutely. There's only 7 CDs left. Go buy one.
Yeah. Sell them out. He wants to sell them out.
Sell them out. That's right.
Appreciate it again, Elvin.
Yep. And you have a great night, Elvin.
Thanks,
bud.
Awesome.
Elvin.
Yeah, I'm happy to ask him if that was really how I. Sismadia is the way I imagine it was pronounced. But
yeah, It probably is. I think the CS is probably just an S sound, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming it probably is. But
Cool, cool, cool. So just to let everyone know, next week we will be live from Dana's 50th birthday party.
that's right. So we'll be out there in Manchester. So we'll be out there Saturday, but it'll be Saturday night. So the doors open for the show at 6 o'clock. I'm assuming the show starts at 7. I don't, Jason, this is obviously going to have to be something you and I talk about off the air, but I'm still not 100% sure how much of, I'm stream the whole show. I don't know if we'll kind of like try to do like a normal format kind of thing in between sets. Maybe we'll be able to do what we did at the Slamming in the Sticks thing when we went last year. Maybe we'll try to, have a quick little sit down with the bands in between sets, get to know them. So I'd say that's definitely one thing we should try to do, considering it'll be band. Well, with the exception of Chunder, we know Chunder, but it'd be nice to catch up with them. But the other three acts will be new to us, so maybe we'll get a chance to make introductions. So
I've seen Mr. Gray, but I haven't really like sat down and talked to him like on the show. So that would be pretty cool. Talk to those guys too.
So yeah, maybe a little bit more of a fluid situation than we normally have. Well, definitely, especially with in relation to the regular format, it'll be fluid compared to that because we keep everything in its own segment. But so we'll see how it goes. But we're looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a good time. So anybody any of our fans here locally in the area want to come on out to Manchester, Tennessee at the church at 117 next Saturday night. Come celebrate our friend Dana Horn's 50th birthday. So
yeah, awesome.
Yep.
And let me get the tickers here. And as always, if you see the ticker there, we are streaming live on trulyradio247.com, 8006/stream. That is our 24-hour radio station. And yes, there are new songs added there daily. I just added a couple of one of our playlists there the other night, and I'll probably do the most recent one here today, probably. And as always, you can go to our merch store over at metalheadsuniteusa.com. And that may be a little bit different here soon. I don't know yet. I'm still working on some stuff there. So also we are getting some shirts made for the Metalheads Unite Tour 2022 shirts. So if you're interested in any of those, you can message us on our socials, and we will get your information and get one of those out to you. I have decided to do those on my own. So I went to my local. I went to my normal guy, and prices have really increased.
So
over the last year, so it's almost cheaper for me just to buy the stuff and do it myself. So that's kind of what I've decided to do. I'm just kind of waiting on that to come in. So if you want one of those, you can order it now, and I should have those here in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
So I know Aunt Amy wants one, so we'll definitely.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she's already put an order in for one. So so we do have one. So, but reach out to us on the socials or at metalheadsuniteusa@gmail.com. That is also our email address. You can reach us there also. So,
and if you want to see any of our other interviews, so you can catch those over on Spotify now. Most of everything's up to date there. We will download this one and upload it later this weekend, and this one will be up as well. So, so like I said, next week we're going to be in Dana's 50th birthday bash, and then following week, I'm not real sure yet what we're doing, but since it's going to be Thanksgiving weekend, is that right? The following week.
Yeah, next Saturday is Dana's thing, and then the Saturday after that, the 25th, is Thanksgiving weekend here in the U.S. Yes.
Yeah, and so we'll have that, and then December 1st, I have I'm almost positive we got a guest. I'm just he's still trying to work out everything, so we will keep that kind of under wraps until we know for sure.
Yep.
But December 1st, I think we have a guest, so we're probably looking at guest. And then I actually just had an email from a band that sent us a demo over, and I really like that demo. I don't know if you checked that out yet, but I think we're going to wind up scheduling something with those guys. I think all four of them want to come on, so that's pretty cool.
Shit, that works. We may have guests all the way through to the end of the year until our year in review show. So
if you want news and all that stuff, you got to follow us on our socials, because we try to keep everybody up to date on the news and happenings there when we're doing this kind of thing. And the birthday list from last week is on there, so if you're curious about that. So I mean, we try to keep everything up to date on there. I know it's kind of hard with us working 9 to 5s, but we do our best to try to keep everything kind of going on there.
Yeah, and we do have the Metalhead Minute that gets released on TikTok and on I put it up on TikTok, on Instagram, and our Facebook group and Facebook page. So it's there also in those four places. So
there we go. Plenty of places to catch. Keep caught up. So.
Yep. And then, in addition to the interviews being on Spotify, every single one of our playlists is on there, whether it's the new release playlist that Jason puts together or the theme of the week playlist that we both work on a weekly basis. Also, all of that's over there.
Yep.
And Octavio has joined us just in time for the show to end. But good morning to Octavio nonetheless.
Yeah. And he got his name back, so good for him.
Yeah, he did. That's right. But buenos dias to you too, Octavio. So,
like I said, Octavio, if you want to go back and watch this on YouTube or catch it on Spotify later this weekend, you're welcome to do so.
As is everybody.
Welcome
and encouraged to do so.
Yeah. Give us a follow over there so you can stay up to date on all of our live shows. Buenos dias. Okay. I can say it. I don't know what it means. Like I was like, man, it's like I forgot all of my Spanish, dude. Like I took it in college and still forgot it. I remember some things, but most of
mine is bare bones.
I do remember there's a difference when you're talking to a male and female. I remember that.
Yeah, there's masculine. There's masculine and feminine.
Why is today's topic? Well, we actually had an interview with Elvin Sismadia. He was the lead vocalist for Eradicated. So we had an interview with him earlier, Octavio.
Yeah, so we didn't have the normal format of the show today because we had a new live guest. So I guess today's topic is getting to know the band Eradicated. So
yeah. Okay.
Compadres. Yeah.
Oh God, it's very nice. Oh, I got you. The Compadres and It's was together. I'm like, what is that? Okay. Gotcha. Cool. So that being said, hopefully we'll, like I said, for right now, we're pretty much booked up till December 1st. We'll let you know about the Thanksgiving show if we're actually going to have a regular show that week or if we're going to have a guest, and then try to let you know about that next week. But during the live podcast, live broadcast. Yeah. So we'll actually put that out to remind you guys next week that we will be on that Saturday night, which is kind of crazy that we're flip-flopping days, I know, but apologize. But we will get back on schedule, I promise. At some point. So
yeah, we definitely appreciate you guys for kind of like sticking with us because, with metal being so international, we do run into the situations where there's quite the time difference between us here in the US, and our friends over there in Sweden and Finland and Germany and what have you. So, Europe is anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, ahead of us. So we kind of have to adjust a little bit. So we appreciate it when you guys can kind of adjust along with us. We're grateful for that. So
No, Octavio, we did not know about the disaster that Heaven and Hell, or Hell and Heaven, was.
Uh, I heard something about it. Yeah.
Oh, really? A lot of bands canceled. Okay.
I heard something about it. I think if I remember correctly, Cold Chamber wasn't able to be there for some reason.
Well, I knew Cold Chamber didn't get to go there
Um,
because of their passport issues.
yeah, that was really the only thing I remember hearing about Hell and Heaven Fest. But uh, other than Machine Head posted that they enjoyed their performance. But Octavia, we'll dig into that. We'll dig into that a little bit more. So
So he was going to go because of,
oh well, that sucks, man. I hate to hear that. Yeah, that
yeah.
definitely.
I mean, like I said, with bands like Mudvayne and Cold Chamber and stuff like that, getting back together doing tours, and then you miss it. It's kind of like, ah, shit, am I going to get another? And that's kind of why I went and seen Pantera, because I mean, you know, Pantera, you may get to see that again in a few years. Who knows? But you just never know with that kind of Anthrax is coming out with new stuff. I already said Down's coming out with new stuff. So with those guys touring with those bands, it's not guaranteed you're going to get to see any Pantera shows next year. So make sure. I just wanted to make sure I got that in. So, so
Yeah, I,
yeah.
s- I still have a feeling that the current incarnation of Pantera might still do something
Oh yeah.
because right now they're more or less they're doing support for Metallica,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with that because I mean obviously back in the heyday, if Pantera and Metallica were on the same bill, there'd be no way you could get a fucking ticket. You wouldn't have been able
Right.
to get your hands on one. So I still have a feeling that Zach and Charlie are still gonna hang around and do this thing, and I still have a feeling you still might see an actual proper tour.
Yeah.
So and I'm kind of hoping so because I would like for them to come through Nashville because
Sure. Yeah. I can see it.
Nashville or Memphis or somewhere,
Gotta do
even
that.
even even Louisville, Birmingham, something like that.
Yeah.
So something that's within relative driving distance because
Well, I drove to Atlanta, so I mean, I'll go back to Atlanta again too.
yeah. So I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I've been to Atlanta for a show too. So I mean, I would like to be able to. I'd like to be able to see it. I'd like to be able to get out there. So I'm kind of hoping that and and obviously from everything I've seen on social media and all that good stuff, I mean, um, uh, there's definitely been plenty of support for the tour. Metallica and Pantera, even before Pantera actually got on the tour with Metallica, they were going out and they were doing festival appearances, and we've all seen the videos of the mosh pits from Cowboys from Hell and shit like that. So I mean, so this thing definitely hasn't been a flash in the pan and all that good stuff. So I think
Yeah.
it, I
You know,
think it can, I think it can keep going as long as the four guys want to keep doing it.
Octavio, yeah, I think it's some yes, some no. I think it's uh, you know depends on venues and the contracts between venue and performer. But yeah, I mean, it can be difficult to support new bands.
And especially with all this merge cut shit that a lot of these new acts are having to deal with now. So it makes it more difficult on them because they have to weigh whether or not it makes sense to go out on tour if they're actually losing money. So
He said, "My age, I'm already bored going to listen to Guns N' Roses and Metallica." Yeah,
that's actually understandable, Octavio. I mean, I've seen Metallica quite a few times, and don't get me wrong, I still go, but I mean,
you talking about two bands been around for 40 years. I mean, yeah, it kind of
that's
gets
that's
old saying the same thing over and over.
that's
So
that's totally understandable.
there's a
Absolutely.
lot of there's a lot of bands down your way though. You need to go over to Victor's page, Hard and Heavy. He does a lot of Mexico, Brazil, Spanish bands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of good. Actually, his nephew, right, is in Knuckles Revenge.
I th- I think it's his nephew. I'm pretty sure it's his nephew. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
And then his sister down there, Rosemary. she does a very good job of covering, you know, the happenings down there in Peru where she lives, because Victor's up here in Nashville, so he he goes around the area and taking, you know, video of concerts that he goes to, and then Rosemary, she does the same thing down there in Peru where she's at. But
All
well,
right.
well, Octavio, now that Mike Portnoy's back in Dream Theater, does that interest you?
Yeah.
Because I mean that was pretty major news. So
All right. Well, I guess we will wrap this one up for this week, and
yep,
hopefully you guys enjoyed the interview. And like I said, I will get that up on Spotify as soon as I can, because I'm gonna have to edit some of this probably. So here at the end. So,
well, I don't know. I think it went well. We didn't have any technical difficulties.
no, but I just kind of wanted to just be just the interview type thing on there. So
Makes sense.
so next week, like I said, we'll be in Manchester for Dana's 50th birthday bash. Hopefully, you guys can join in Saturday afternoon with us there.
Live and on location.
Yep, live and on location. Yep. So
I like the sound of that. I really do.
yeah, we don't get to do it often, so it is pretty
No.
cool to say
Yeah.
that, especially since they're not having a rocking pod next year. So
Yeah, that stinks too.
anyway, all right. So with that being said, hopefully you will be back here next week. Until then, keep those horns held high. Jump in that pit anytime you can.
Have a great week, guys.